Hello there, I'm Joe Mannheim.
And I'm Sandra Reeser.
We hope you've enjoyed the live broadcast of the graduation ceremony today at Hopewell Valley Central High School.
Welcome to Central Television. In this show, we will visit a child care class, a garden in Trenton, students participating in World Hunger Day, people at Pennington Day, and students walking in a stream.
We also have a panel on the drug and alcohol policy, opinions about the presidential campaign, performances from the Teen Arts Festival, and a look at our seniors.
Jordan Melk put together a panel concerning the Child Study program at Hopewell. In this course, students learn about child care and development. Let's see what the panelists have to say.
Hi, I'm Jordan Melk, and I'm here with a group from the Child Development course. They are...
I'm Sean Myers.
I'm Jennifer Dallum.
I'm Melissa Sinclair, and this is Steve Nadier.
I'm Mrs. Carbone. I'm Mrs. Dempsey, and this is Stacy.
Mrs. Carbone, your child care course has generated a lot of interest among the students. Could you tell us how and when it got started?
In 1990, through the mini grant program of the school district, I wrote a proposal which was accepted by the committee, which awarded me $1,000 to use for equipment. And I rewrote the curriculum to include a hands-on experience for my students. So that's how our program started. Our first nursery school began last spring, '91, and this is our second program.
When students are taking this course, what can they expect to be doing?
Well, they can expect to learn about a child entirely from prenatal to age 4, physical, social, emotional, and intellectual development, and then to take those learnings and put them into practical application.
And how do you get the children to participate?
The little children, we put an ad in the newspaper. We also put flyers in the grocery stores.
Mrs. Dempsey, how did you go about enrolling your child?
I called the school to find out how to get an application or to fill out an application, and then I came on in and left the information for Mrs. Carbone.
Is there any cost at all?
No, there's no cost.
You just provide transportation?
Transportation to and from for the children, yeah.
How did you guys get involved in the program? Sean?
Well, I had Mrs. Carbone before in a couple of other classes, and I was really always interested in like child development and nursery school and stuff like that. So I just figured, you know, it sounded like fun, and I thought it would be a good educational experience. And I think it's a very good course. That's why I took it.
Last year I saw, I guess it was it the first year, and I saw all the students that were taking it. They were carrying around their eggs, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And when I was talking to them, I found out that they were enrolled in the child development class, and they said it was a lot of fun, and you learn a lot, and you get to be around kids. And since I like kids, I thought I'd enroll in it, and it's a lot of fun.
Last year I saw the kids carrying around the eggs too. And then in the book where they explain like what classes you can take, I saw it, and it sounded like fun.
Good. How's the program helping you?
Well, it's getting me ready for when I get older, and if I want to have kids, I'll be ready.
Sean, are you the only male in the class?
No, there's one other.
There's one other?
Yes.
And do you think boys should become involved, more involved?
Yes, I do, definitely. I don't think there's enough, not boys, but boys and girls in general. There's not enough students in this course, and I think it should be considered to be a mandatory course for me because it teaches you about life, and I mean more people should get involved in a course like this. It's not like a course like math or science, which I mean is good, but a course like this could really teach you how to survive out in real life, and because eventually just about everyone will probably have a child, and it'll teach you what to do.
Can any of you relate a story about an incident that happened with any of the children?
Well, we have one child in our class, and she's a bit wild, and it teaches us how to deal with her, how to be patient, and we've learned that if she's doing something that she's not supposed to be doing, we have to direct their attention to something else, which gives them other opportunities and it gives them a chance to learn how to be good. So.
In closing, Ms. Carbone, how practical a course is this?
Well, I think it's probably one of the most practical courses we could offer in this high school. Just to reemphasize what everyone has said, we've tried to deal with the fact that most people will have children. We try to show them how to deal with children and what to expect.
Nice. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining me here. Thank Sean, Jen, Melissa, Mrs. Carbone, and Mrs. Dempsey. I'm Jordan Melk for CTV.
This course is one of the newest additions to the curriculum. It's a nice chance for mothers to have some free childcare and for students to learn about toddlers' behavior.
For the past 2 years, teacher Mr. Gary Canine has taken students in his Spanish classes to the Hispanic community in Trenton to volunteer in a project called Isles.
The students help clean and maintain gardens. Jem Woods and Nikki Mermet took a video camera along on this year's trip. Following the Spanish class trip and scattered throughout the show, we will be looking at a recent trend at Hopewell Valley involving body art. We will be showing people who have been brave enough to expose their tattoos to everybody in our television audience.
I'm here with Mr. Canine, Spanish teacher.
Yes,
the man who brought us here.
Prize students.
Of course. Mr. Canine, how do you think the turnout went today?
How did it turn out?
Yeah.
I think it's been good so far. The difference between this year and last year has been the weather. It's a little cooler and windier this time, but judging from your response and the response of the other students, it hasn't affected our morale. We had a big meal, and now we're ready to get our hands dirty and dig in the gardens.
Sounds good to me. Do you plan on doing this in the following years?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good for students to get out and see the Puerto Rican community and what it's doing in Trenton, and I think it's good for us to be able to get our hands dirty and learn by doing, as opposed to just being in school and reading our Spanish books.
Sounds very good. Do you think this might spark some of the Hopewell Valley students to get out in their own community and start doing this maybe around our community?
It very well could. I think the important thing about this effort is that the community residents are involved, and you know, you can do things, a lot of things in life on your own and individually, and that's fine, but you really get a lot more out of things at times if you're doing them with other people. And who knows, this could light a fire in a lot of people and help them decide to go out and work together on other projects, not necessarily gardening, but maybe on other things.
Okay. And if you're just a person like from Hopewell or from anywhere else that would want to get involved, coming into Trenton, say on the weekends or something to get involved, who would they contact, or could they just show up at a garden and start working, or how does that work?
393-7153 is Isles' phone number, and you could call and ask for Amy or Stephanie or Mary Kay or any of the volunteers or staff that work at Isles and express your interest in volunteering. And there's plenty of work to do. They're in the children's garden every day after school working with the kids, and they're always looking for help. And we've been here, last year we came here after school 7 times and worked around the different gardens, and we plan on coming back a couple times this year. So.
Okay, great. Thanks for talking with us.
Okay.
I got my tattoo at Tattoo Lou Studio in downtown somewhere or another, Long Island. And I got it with an not an ex-friend, a really good friend of mine. Both got it. It was just something kind of a spontaneous, on the moment, let's go get a tattoo type of thing. And I'm getting another one on my ankle of some type of Navajo design, like that. And someday I'm going to get a big, huge tiger on my back, grabbing right here. So that's about it.
I understand the students really got a lot of enjoyment and satisfaction out of the trip to Trenton.
That's what I hear, too. It's a worthwhile project. On April 16th, students at Hopewell Valley participated in their own World Hunger Awareness Day.
During lunch periods on this day, students were able to purchase lunches equivalent to meals of first, second, and third world countries. Ken Phillips was there to capture some comments about the experience.
Okay, I'm here with one of our very own Hopewell Valley lunch ladies. What are your feelings on the Hunger Awareness Day?
Well, I think that it's a very good thing for the students to realize that other people are not as fortunate as we are, and they certainly do not have the foods available to them that we have. And there was a very good participation from the students, and no one grumbled about it or anything else. They just took what they had their ticket for, and that was it.
What are your feelings on a Hunger Awareness Day?
I think it's a very good idea to get people aware that there's hunger in the world, and this is one way of doing it.
Do you feel it impacted the school or anything? Or?
Well, if you look at the list over on the wall of the number of students participating, I think it has had an impact. And this is the first year, so the bugs will have to get worked out. Some of the homerooms that got ignored, like mine, will have to get, all that will have to be worked out. But sure, I think this is a good start, and next year it'll be even better.
All right, thank you.
I wanted to get a tattoo for a really long time, but I wanted it to be something that I designed, so that if I ever did get like sick of it, like it would still be like something that I did, not like something that some cheesy tattoo dude just like picked off the wall and stuck on my ankle. It didn't hurt that badly. It felt like he made like a Xerox carbon copy of my design, then put it around my ankle. It felt like he was just tracing with a razor blade for most of it, which wasn't that bad.
This was Hopewell Valley's first World Hunger Day. It will hopefully continue in upcoming years and become more popular so that everyone can learn how people of other nations eat.
Just in from our comm-like satellite, we have Jesse Branham with action cam footage of Pennington Day, that tumultuous event.
What do you tell us more about H. Ross Perot?
Well, Mr. Perot is from Texas. He's a businessman. He's been working with computer software as it relates to some government work with the Medicare program from about 1986. He's very familiar with the political process from a business perspective. He's not a politician. He's not an experienced politician. He's a very direct man with a great deal of common sense who speaks, who's very action-oriented. My interest, he's not got a platform yet. He's not declared his platform. We are seeking to put him on the ballot so that he will have an official an official position to speak from regarding his presidential platform. So really, I can't speak for Mr. Perot. I can only speak for myself about why I think he might be a good person for us to all listen to. I see him as a man who's going to challenge and trigger more sophisticated and direct conversations in the political dialogue running up to the presidential elections. I think needs to be more challenge in those conversations for the issues that concern Americans most.
That was real busy.
Oh yeah, I heard that Jesse had a hard time breathing due to the congestion in traffic.
Shadow traffic was announcing the congestion in the parking lot was unreal. In all seriousness, Pennington Day was moved from its real location into the town of Pennington to the high school and to Timberlane due to the rain. Hopefully we'll have nice weather next year for a real Pennington Day.
Students in Miss Widmer's Ecology and Society classes recently spent a day doing research in streams in Hopewell Township. Jem Woods and Sandra Reeser captured some of the action on videotape.
A bunch of juniors wading in the water. Look at them wade. They are using nets.
We are scraping the bottom of rocks with our knives and putting the mud and algae and microorganisms into a little jar so that when we get back to school, we can look at our samples under a microscope and determine what these little animals are.
Holy cow.
Look what we got. Look at what I caught. Look at what we caught. Isn't he beautiful?
It's not yours.
Yeah, look at the claws.
Is it a snapping turtle?
No, it's a baby. It's like a polished box turtle.
My turtle was great. He didn't have big claws like that though. Look at him. Yeah.
Oh!
Benny, could you show us your leg for the camera?
Gee, what? Yeah, big what? Yeah. You can eat these. Freshwater clam. Make some clam chowder, boys. Excellent, excellent. We call that.
Would you like to tell us what you think of the ecology trip so far today?
Oh, I'm having fun.
It's been a fabulous outing as so far. We caught a scud.
Scud?
Got a lot of mayflies.
Scud.
And a turtle.
There she is.
Little turtle.
She just popped up out of the water. Would you like to look in here?
Jen, would you like to see the scud in a close-up camera?
Well, you have to wait for the water to settle.
No, it's settled. There's a scud.
Is it settled?
She's swimming around in there. There's a scud, see?
See you.
Gotta really dig it up. Didn't get anything.
They are not.
Lift it up. We'll go grab one. Too. Then splash around.
I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I go, whoa.
The ecology trip is a yearly event for Miss Wimmer's classes. Each year, the data from the water tests are sent to the Environmental Commission of Hopewell Township, which monitors the quality of the water in the streams. Did you know that the high school's drug and alcohol policy has been revised? Recently, my co-host, Joe Mannheim, organizes a panel consisting of Mr. Corelli, a vice principal of the high school, Mr. Arnold Melk, a civil rights lawyer, Mrs. Christine Lewis, a student assistant counselor, and two students, senior Jesse Branham and junior Dan Norcross, to discuss the new policy. Let's watch this segment chaired by Joe Mannheim.
Hi there, I'm Joe Mannheim, and I'm here with a panel to discuss the newly revised policy related to drugs and alcohol at Hopewell Valley High School. I'm here today with
Jeff Corelli, high school vice principal.
Jesse Branham, senior at Hopewell Valley.
Arnold Melk, attorney and parent.
Dan Norcross, a concerned junior here at Hopewell.
Chris Lewis, student assistance counselor.
Mr. Corelli and Mrs. Lewis, could you tell us today what exactly is the new policy and how it's been changed?
Well, we convened a committee to revise the policy because part of the state's monitoring process is to evaluate and overlook all policies related to students, particularly and academics. And in their latest review, they brought to our attention that certain procedures that are related to required testing were not present in our present policy. So they requested us to revise our policies, and we did convene a committee of people from the guidance department, our substance abuse counselor, several administrators, board members, etc., with some recommended changes. The major changes that from the previous policy are in two areas that affect students. The first one is that the required testing component. My comment relative to the changes to students has been that this policy is more intrusive inasmuch as it requires or prescribes the school to require students to go through certain things that the old policy didn't. The major one is that if a student appears to be under the influence of alcoholic beverages or other drugs, and that is reported to us, to the administration by a staff member, or it is discovered by a staff member, we have a requirement that we must arrange for quick medical evaluation of that student to determine if or not he or she is under the influence. So the major change is that it's not a discussion with the school nurse or a discussion with the high school administration to determine whether or not a student's under the influence, but basically a medical examination by a licensed practitioner that's laid out with certain testing and interviewing, and almost invariably will require a blood and or urine test. And the school then would expect to get back from the medical evaluator some determination of yes or no, that student was under the influence or wasn't. The second major change to the policy is in the area of sanctions, and this was not required by the law, but there was some concern with the school board that students' time at the assigned alternative school seemed to vary based on when a board hearing was held in regard to the case. So we have modified the sanctions so that there's the clock starts of a student being assigned to the alternative school the day he gets there. And if the sanction is a 10-day stay, that's what it'll be. It wouldn't be 10 days on top of 5 days waiting for a board hearing. So we've cleaned up some of the sanctions, but our major thrust was to set up rules and procedures to deal with the required testing. Okay? While a student is if a student has been sent for testing and we haven't gotten the results yet, he or she is not deprived of their rights as a student. If the doctor can determine that the student can return to school the day of the testing, that student's education is not altered or changed until the results of the testing come back. Those are the two major changes, the area of sanctions and this required testing component. And that falls under both alcohol and or other drugs. For purposes of the law, the state determines alcohol to be under the category of drugs. Anabolic steroids is also considered to be in the same category.
Mrs. Lewis, what role do you play within this?
My role is if a student is determined to have had violated the policy and then the sanctions go into place, mine is to offer a therapeutic approach so that the student can get the help they need to find out how severe the problem is, if it is a severe problem or it's a one-time incident. So my role is totally therapeutic. The school district has a strong feeling about helping students that have alcohol and drug problems, not just punishing. They want to see that the student gets help. Because I'll agree with Mr. Corelli, the policy was changed to be updated with New Jersey Law 18A. All schools must reevaluate their policy every year. This is a yearly process. What was included this year that hadn't been in the policy of the last policy was anabolic steroids. That had not been included before. But there is a definite policy. This is not Hopewell Valley's policy. This is state law. And there is a definite procedure that every school district must follow. I have a chart here, and I can show it to those of you in the class and your classmates at another time. But basically, there is a flow chart of how things happen. And as Mr. Curley said, if it's accurately professionals thinks that somebody's under the influence, this is a health reason. We don't know what is going on. It could be somebody having a seizure. It could be any number of things. So our immediate thing is we're not to diagnose. That is not our job as a school. We are to get the student immediate help because he can hurt somebody else. So we want to get that student the help as soon as we can. Again, therapeutic, or taking him out of the environment. If he was in a science class, things could happen there, which are harmful to just not only the student but to other students. But a medical inspector or physician is always involved. The parent is always notified. Now, if they can't reach the parent, the student is still taken to a hospital and does have a test done. A parent may also take the student immediately to their own physician, and the same flow chart takes place. If there's a negative diagnosis, the student can return immediately to school. If there's a positive diagnosis, then the sanctions go into effect, and the student does get help for their problem if there is one.
What happens if if the student refuses to take the test?
The option of refusal is not an option. If we had a problem of that type, we would call on the assistance of the parents and, if necessary, the police to assist us with that type of situation. And we're basically required to do that.
Mr. Milk, what is from your viewpoint as a civil rights lawyer and maybe as a parent, what is the legality, I guess, of this?
Well, at the outset, it should be noted that students who are usually minors do not have the same rights that adults or non-students have with regard to certain matters. However, one thing that disturbs me about this policy, among some other things that disturb me about the policy, is the position taken that students can be required to undergo physical, what we call intrusive examination, by way of a blood test or urinalysis, notwithstanding the participation of their parents. I would submit that any student who refuses to take the test and is then forced to take the test, and let's take the scenario, is forced to take the test without a parental consent or guidance or counsel, without the participation of some other person such as a lawyer, and who passes the test, would probably be well advised to consider a lawsuit against those persons who forced the examination. Although we don't have certain rights against search and seizure in the criminal context, and that's what our Supreme Court ultimately does, decides what government can do to us and to our personhood, there's a particular overlay of problems with this drug policy, and that is that even though most of you, and I'll assume, are juveniles, the use of alcohol or drugs by a juvenile is a violation of law. And that's beyond whatever it is that a Board of Education may determine pursuant to what it understands its obligations are vis-a-vis the students. For example, since you may be prosecuted as a juvenile offender for use of drugs, you may be prosecuted as a juvenile offender for the use of alcohol, and since we know that the courts have provided protections to juveniles who are accused of offenses, how can we square a policy which requires mandatorily the examination of students who are suspected of this illegal activity with the rights which they retain as juveniles in the criminal justice system? It appears as if there is some conflict between the two systems, i.e. the educational system, the need. And what I want to emphasize is that the Board of Education has every duty and obligation to try to create a drug and alcohol-free environment here at the school. And any student who misunderstands that and confuses their rights as citizens and children within our society with the overwhelming need to rid our society of the abuse of alcohol and drugs is missing the point. However, since the policy implicates government, which you may have learned in your civics classes and otherwise, is that our form of government, which allows it to use its police power to do things to us, i.e. make you go to school, also allows us to treat children or minors differently, nevertheless requires that that police power be exercised in a restrained way, the most restrained way possible, necessary to achieve an objective. For example, as you may not know, any communication that any student has with Mrs. Lewis as the drug counselor in the school is confidential by law. And in fact, federal law provides that anyone who breaches that confidentiality is guilty of a federal crime. So there are protections for children, there are systems in place. And I have one last thing to say about the policy, get into further discussion, that is a problem. And I'm reading offense under graded sanctions. A student is found under the influence and/or in possession of alcoholic beverages on school property or at a school-related function or at a time when the student is accountable to the school. Under the influence involves any suspected consumption or use of alcohol. Well, I dare say that if under the influence involves simply suspected consumption or use of alcohol and doesn't necessarily include the use or consumption of such alcohol, then this regulation would be struck down, in my opinion.
It's been my opinion. I need to, like to comment on that. There is fact-finding done, and if this whole thing has been done as a health issue, we're looking at if a student is acting bizarrely or under the influence, it's a health issue, and the school needs to do something. There was a case in Haddonfield Township where a school district allowed 2 students, being fair to the students, they think, who were under the influence, to leave the school district. And they hit another girl, and the girl sued, and the school district was at fault because they allowed drunk drivers leaving a school dance, and the girls were hurt. So there is a responsibility in the school to protect all students. And the fact-finding is such that nobody gets in trouble. We're trying to help the students.
Well, I think that Mr. Milk's comments are focusing on the intrusive part of the policy, which is the testing. The state is made it very clear to schools, and this point may be argued and probably will be argued in legal opinions as this policy is implemented across the state. That fact-finding, in effect, is including some medical evaluation because people on site really don't have, quote, expertise to determine if a student is legally or illegally under the influence. So the major change I see in the policy is that Mr. Corelli or Mrs. Young we have less discretionary powers. The same way we have less discretionary powers in a Division of Youth and Family Service case, a DIFAS case. If the school was ever put in a position where we were in effect looking the other way or stonewalling a situation where a student was legally under the influence, we're opening a window of liability that way. Mr. Melk is suggesting there's a window of liability could be opened if you require testing to a student against their will or their parents' will. And we are aware of that. We are comfortable with it. This is the law, and these policies are dynamic things that basically do come under fire so that the rights of individuals are protected and the rights of institutions are protected so that we can both do our business. And I'm not quite sure where this will follow. I do want to advise the students that we are required to follow the policy as outlined and approved by the Board of Education. If to not do that would be insubordinate and not in compliance with the law. So I don't want to confuse people that the policy is different than it's stated. It would be applied this way if there was a problem with the policy, and I think the worst problem would be lack of cooperation from parents and students or lack of consent. I think that would have to be played out, and it may very well be played out in a legal situation.
Dan and Jesse, as students within this school, how do you guys feel about this?
Well, one word that's really come up a lot kind of frightens me, and that's intrusive, to intrude. And when I first heard about the policy, that's what first struck me, the fact that the school or the government would have the right to force me to take a test, whether or not I was legally under the influence. And while I realized that if I were under the influence, I could be potentially hurting other people, and it is certainly a health issue, but still, I'm required to be here by law. It's not like I want to be here. I don't come here by choice. And then, effectively, they're forcing me to come under a situation where they have overbearing rights and authority over me. Really, I have no choice about that. If I want to spend $20,000, I could go to a private school or whatever and get around this because I'm not sure what this law pertains to, if it's just public institutions that the state provides for, or if it is all private institutions, but I'm assuming it's only public.
It's public.
Exactly.
Tax supported.
But they're just as strict, Dan, at
I'm certain of
private
that.
schools.
I'm certain of that. But still,
They
I'm
just
not
throw
forced,
you out there.
I'm not forced to go to private school. I'm forced to go to this school by
Right.
law. And I think that's a big
understand.
issue. Certainly, I think the school would have the right to intrusively force a drug test if I were going to a school function that I were not required to go to, such as a school dance. But just during the school day, I have to be here. And that's an opinion. I realize that doesn't have any legal backing, but still, that's my first moral reaction to it.
Jesse?
I'll basically side with him. I mean, I think it's like a pretty devastating shame that our elected representatives, our state leaders, can't come up with better alternatives and consequences when faced with this situation. And I think the next student who's confronted with this, when he's confronted with a man's suspicion, forces him to take a test, you know. When you're forced to do that, I think that he needs to take it to law, and something should be done in like the courts of law about this. And change is needed because it's wrong. It's like dignity is being raped. You have no rights.
Very interesting being here with you all today. I wish we had more time, but we don't because the class bell's about to ring. And thank you for being here with Hopewell Valley CTV.
I can sense that there will be more talk about this in the future.
Probably. It's certainly worth looking into.
You know, skateboarding is very popular again.
Yes, but sometimes skaters don't have to have any place to practice.
Scott Kemick, an excellent skateboarder, has some thoughts on this. Scott?
In the early 70s, when skateboarding first arrived on the scene, it was greeted with open arms by the public. Many outdoor skate park facilities were built, providing a place for skaters to go enjoy their sport. Since then, things have changed for the worst. Many of the original parks, which produced some of the world's best skaters, have been torn down. This is because the cost of insurance has become so high. With nowhere to go, the skaters took to the streets and started building backyard ramps. But society wasn't too thrilled with the entry of skaters into the outside world. People who owned backyard ramps often had to tear them down due to angry neighbors who didn't want to put up with the noise or the eyesore. Those who went to the streets developed an entirely new form of skating called street style. But pedestrians and owners of the property soon became annoyed with the presence of the skaters and called upon police and security guards to remove the skaters from their property. With nowhere else to go, the skaters tried to find new spots and would return to the same spots, trying to avoid run-ins with police. In my 7 years of skating, I've had many run-ins with police and angry store owners. Every time I am told the same thing, like, this is private property, or what if you get hurt? We don't want to be sued. Every time I'm kicked out, I ask them, where is there a skate park that I could go to, or somewhere that I wouldn't be bothering anyone? They never know of any parks, and they always send me to some junky place that's really not suitable for skating. The closest skate park to my house is 1 hour away. Since I skate every day, this is not very convenient. I think that each county should build a park for skateboarders the same way baseball fields and basketball courts are built in every town. It's a solution that would make both sides happy, but as always, it's a matter of money.
Thanks, Scott. Have you thought about this year's election?
Yes, but I'm not quite sure who to vote for.
I'm not certain either.
No, I still don't know.
CTV interviewed some people about their choices. Here is what we found out.
Well, what do I think about the state of the political candidates for election? I think that there are really no outstanding candidates. Right now, I have a preference towards Jerry Brown, but I don't think he could run a country, so that's not to say I would vote for him, but I think his issues and his ideas are better than anyone else running, and I think, you know, if I agree with someone in like their economic plans, then I disagree with them in their like moral and social issues, you know, like abortion rights and stuff. You know, all the candidates, I think, take different points of view on different things than I do, so I can't really put my faith in one candidate. And it's going to be really hard because this is the first time I'm going to be able to vote for president, and I don't know. I'm disappointed.
I support Jerry Brown myself. I think he's got a lot of good ideas. He does not accept over $100 from corporations, so he doesn't have to support anybody if he was to be elected to office. I think he's most concerned about the environment. He's got a lot of good issues about the environment. He's really serious about cleaning up the corruption in Washington and government in general, and I think that he's the man for the job.
The candidates for president, right now I'm not impressed with anybody. Matter of fact, the only person who really impressed me at the moment is this gentleman by the name of H. Ross Perot. Non-political, businessman, a lot of common sense that he speaks. I'm going to try to track him and see how he goes through the campaign. So right now I'm uncommitted, but I'm leaning towards an independent.
It was either when Reagan was running for his second term in office or Bush was running for his initial term as president. I heard a report on the radio from Pacifica News about Reagan's first campaign for president when the hostage situation was going on in Iran. And it said that Bush had made a trip to Iran during the campaign, during the time when Americans were held hostage in Iran. Jimmy Carter was president at the time. Americans were being held hostage in Iran, and the gist of it was that, and I've heard this from other people more recently, that Reagan had made some kind of a deal with the Iranians to not release the hostages until after the election, so that it would work badly for Jimmy Carter. And Bush apparently was involved in this. Bush made a trip to Iran at that time. To me, that's not good. If in fact that happened, if Reagan had some deal with the Iranians to not release the hostages, and if Bush was involved in that, I mean, this is old history, but if Bush did that, I don't think a whole lot of Bush.
I think the problem with politics today is that there aren't any Democrats in the White House. I think we should get Jerry Brown for president.
Why?
Because he'll change things. We need somebody different. We need new ideas, and we got to get Bush and Reaganomics out of the White House.
Joe, what would you take with you if you were marooned on a desert island, and why?
A bridge, so I could get off.
Oh. I had the opportunity to ask a few people about what they'd like to have with them on a desert island, and here are some of the responses we got.
Here with Junior Scott Kemick. Scott, if there was one thing you could take with you on a desert island, what would it be and why?
I'd probably bring a boat, because I would want to get off that desert island, because I definitely wouldn't want to be on a desert island.
Ms. Kaffer, if there was one thing you could take with you on a desert island, what would it be and why?
On a deserted island? A man. Why?
If there was one thing you guys could take on a desert island with you, what would it be and why?
Some water.
Why?
Because there would probably be a lacking of it on a desert island, and I'd like to survive.
Okay. Eric?
Golf ball.
Why would you take a golf ball?
So I could play some golf. And maybe some, like, fun things to do. Like lawn darts and such.
Oh, I was asked this when I was a sophomore in high school, and I got yelled at because the three things that I brought were totally impractical. Not yell, he didn't yell at me, but I knew he was yelling at me. So let's see, what would, I don't know, my games magazine to pass time. You only told me one though, didn't you?
Yeah.
Ah, shucks, I guess I'm only going to pass time.
Thanks, it's true.
Well, Sandra, let's hope none of us get marooned. Earlier in the year, some students in Hopewell Valley participated in the Mercer County Teen Arts Festival. Among the participants were our school band, orchestra, advanced chorus, art students, and the video yearbook staff.
We have tape of a Timberlane student, Joey Novak, performing a song he wrote, Jen Fugas doing dramatic interpretation, Amy Crowley with an operatic selection, and Alice Pfeifenberger on the piano. Let's watch and listen.
want a dog and a cat and 3 goldfish. I want it all. There's no harm in wanting it because there's no chance we're going to get it, but if you don't want it, you've got even less chance than that. If you want me, then fight for me because I'm fighting for you. I think we're both worth it.
We just did that. I know.
Jen, Amy, Alice, and Georgine McCormick were all selected to perform at the State Teen Arts Festival, as well as a 7-minute segment of the video yearbook, The Wanderer, a videotape by Jesse Shapiro, Ronnie Riley, and Josh Wilson.
You know, this year was filled with excitement and anticipation for the seniors. CTV would like to present this little tribute to them, produced by Deanna Del Montaigne and Eric Sheehan.
I heard you got a tattoo.
Yeah, about 1.5 years ago, I got one on my arm.
So you were probably one of the first ones, right?
Yeah, me and Matt Lincoln went together.
All right. So let's see what your tattoo looks like here.
Okay.
All right. So who is that guy?
Yosemite Sam.
All right. So you're a Looney Tunes type of guy, huh?
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Okay. So did it hurt very much? I heard
No,
they're pretty painful.
it doesn't hurt at all. The outline hurt a little bit. That took him about an hour, but it didn't hurt at all.
Yeah. So how long was the whole process?
It took the guy about 2.5 hours.
Okay. And was he one of those big burly guys?
Yeah,
like
it
you
was.
see in the movies?
It was some guy. He was on vacation. He just got back from vacation from California, and he didn't look too good, but he did a good job.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks.
And I heard you got tattooed, Todd.
Yeah, I got it about almost a year ago. Actually, about 9 months ago. It was last June.
Okay, and what inspired you to get this tattoo?
I don't know, something I've always wanted to do, and I saw a couple guys got them, and I decided to go get one.
All right, and now I hear this is on your back, right?
Yeah.
Can we get a look at this? Let's see there. All right, we got a big snake here. Did you get that? Hey, wait, here, come in there.
I have like undressed.
Okay.
It hurt, like up on the shoulder blade, that hurt.
And
But like the color and stuff didn't hurt too bad.
Did it bleed a lot?
Nah, not too much, a little. It was all right there.
So about how much did it cost?
It was $95.
It's not bad. All right, thanks. Rich, I heard you got a tattoo.
Yeah.
So, was it painful?
Yeah. Very painful.
Very painful?
Very painful.
So,
Very painful.
what made you want to get this painful tattoo?
Well, I really didn't want to get it. I went with Todd Lewis and Anthony Capiello to get my tattoo. And I only had $35 on me, and I didn't really plan to get it that day. I was just going to look around. And Anthony told this big Harley dude that I wanted a tattoo, so I really had no choice. So I just kind of went, that one. And I got that one.
All right, so let's see what that one is. That down. That's a cute little butterfly there on Rich's back.
That was a deeply moving tribute to the seniors. I hope they can take it and reminisce over it in their later years. And that's our show.
We'd like to thank you for joining us today.
This is Joe.
And I'm Sandra.
We'll close with the Fusion Band.
High Price doing the second half of the original song that closed last night's CTV show.
Well, so long.
Goodbye.